The point of this exercise is not necessarily to check the exact syntax of any given programming language.
Okay.
So the idea here is we're going to try and work through a business process.
Oh, okay.
As you can see, I put some template code up here, and we'll get to that in a second. So what we're trying to achieve basically is write some code that will manage aircraft at an airport. Now, it's a really simple airport.
Oh, okay. I was
not a very complex one. But essentially, what we want to do is at the airport there's like two different types of plane. There's passenger planes and cargo planes.
Cargo. Okay.
And those planes can be large planes or small planes.
Okay.
So what we want to do is write some code that basically will schedule some aircraft. So as aircraft are ready to basically get tracked, they get added to this aircraft manager class. So we want to create an implementation of this add aircraft. And then essentially what we want to do is when the runway is kind of clear for the next plane to take off, we execute remove next aircraft.
Right.
So you've got two methods here that we want to implement essentially.
Okay.
And the kind of key piece here is that the order in which you want airplanes to take off is passengers go before cargo.
Passengers go before cargo.
And the bigger the plane goes before small planes.
The bigger the plane. Oh, okay. Can I write that down?
Sure.
So if it's a cargo and it's big, if it's a passenger and it's bigger, then that's like the most important.
Correct.
Okay. So it's passenger, then cargo, then cargo, then it's bigger and bigger to smaller. Okay. Planes. And also, what is this? Oh, this is just a.
So this is the manager class, and I've just basically templated an actual aircraft. So an aircraft consists of an identifier, a Boolean telling us whether it's a passenger or a cargo. So obviously, if this is false, it's cargo. And if it is large, basically will tell you whether it's larger or smaller. So this is basically the information which will tell you what type of aircraft you're dealing with. So you use that basically to try to create an implementation of these two specific methods.
And it doesn't have to be in Java, right?
No, you can use whatever you want, and feel free to change the APIs here as well.
Oh, I see. And what should I do in the case, since large is like a Boolean, what do I do in the case of ties?
So that's a good question. So basically, you're asking if I have two of the same type.
Yeah, like a passenger and it's a large.
So that's a very good clarification. Yeah. So the assumption there is that the first one they take off basically based on the order in which they queued.
Oh, okay. So then so there should be like a method of like a time or something that says like, or like they should be. I see. So that now I feel like I see. Then I feel like this manager needs a queue of some sort, right? A priority queue, right?
Whatever implementation you need to get to the point where when you choose the logic to remove an aircraft from this collection per se, you're taking the one that's been queued the longest if it's the same type. So if it's large versus small.
Cool. Do I have to? Do I have to implement a priority queue, or is it? Or can I use a library of some sort?
You feel free to use
any library.
whatever. I mean, we'll work through it. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm a Python, and so I know Python, so I'm going to code this up in Python.
You might know more about it than I do.
No, it's okay. So I feel like Python has a priority queue class that and basically takes in a number and like then your item, right, and returns you the values based upon the sorting order. Okay. So and I believe if it's the same number, it should return what was pushed in first. So I feel like if it's a passenger, it should get to. For the priority, I feel like based upon what methods I get, I could add a priority number to this. So like if it's a cargo, so there's like smaller. So let's say like cargo was like there's 4 different types. So like and then like different combinations. There's going to be like 8 different types in total, right? Like with so it could be passenger bigger, passenger smaller. So this would be passenger big, passenger small, cargo. 4. Cargo big, and then cargo small. So this is So these are the 4 different types that could possibly. Those are the 4 different types that aircraft can possibly be. So this will be number 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. So when I instantiate my aircraft manager, I'm going to instantiate like a priority queue. String. Is this airport? Oh.
Yeah, my right. Feel free to change.
Okay, so self.airport equals airport, and then I'm going to implement a priority queue. Queue is equal to priority. It's going to be queue dot priority queue. And so that's going to keep track of the ordering of the airplane. So when I add the aircraft, plane to add. So then it's going to check to see if it's. So these are going to just return true and false, right? So cargo big, cargo small. I want to try to think of a way that's cleaner rather than putting a bunch of if statements, but that comes to me right now, so I'm going to just code that out. So if it's cargo, if plane to add is passenger, then if plane to add is large, then I'm going to give it the priority 1. Q put 1 plane to add. And then else Q put 2 plane to add. And then else is a cargo plane. Then if plane to add is large, Q put 3 to add. Oh, Q put 4 plane to add. Okay, and so that's how I'm going to add each aircraft.
Cool.
And then to remove a next aircraft, I'm just going to pop from my queue. So move next aircraft. And then return queue get. So that's going to give me what's priorities first, and if it's a tie, it's going to give me what was put in first.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then I guess this is great. I guess then the next part of this is, can you write either a unit test or some kind of code to exercise this so that you can give it a sample set of data and work through the combinations to test that it's actually going to pop in the right order?
So so what I can do is
do you want to maybe flip it? You can get rid of the top if you want.
Okay. I can write it here. Yeah. So my unit testing.
That helps.
So basically, when I first unit test, I'm gonna just instantiate the method to see if it creates it properly. So it would be like aircraft manager equal craft manager, and then assert. I'll do assert true aircraft manager. And then I will create some planes like aircraft airplane 1 equals what was it called? Aircraft. Aircraft. I assume it'll be like let's say this is big, is large, and is passenger. An airplane 2 is like, so I'll instantiate aircraft of all the possible 4, and then start inserting them, mix matching, and then so like let's say I just ordered 1 is this plane, 2 is the small cargo bag.
So if I was to put them in, let's just say for argument's sake, they went in big. Sorry.
No, it's okay.
Passenger small, cargo small,
okay.
Cargo big, large, and passenger large.
Okay.
Can you walk the code? I mean, in the absence of actually, just walk the code to see how you execute through the logic that you put in there.
Sure. So let's say this puts in first. So we're going to go passenger small. So if plane is passenger, which is true, it's going to go into this code, this part of the code, and it's going to say, is it large? It's not. So it's going to put with a priority 2. So in the queue, it's going to put this as 2, passenger small. And then it's going to be cargo. So the next plane is going to go to this part of the segment because it's a cargo. So it's going to fail the passenger. And if it's a large, it's not. It's going to put as priority 4. So cargo, small. And then same thing here. It's going to go to this block of the code. It is a large, so it's going to give it a 3. So since this has a higher priority, it's going to be between here and put cargo. What is it? A cargo large. Large. And then it's going to put passenger. Then it's going to do passenger large, and it's going to give it the largest priority. Q put large 1, and so cargo, passenger large. And then I'm going to pop it off. Then I'm going to just pop off until it returns empty. I'm going to have there will be an is empty method in this class, and then it's going to return in order 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah.
So can you think of any negative test cases?
Yeah.
So stuff that would break. What would you do if you were trying to test for flaws in
absolutely.
your code?
So if I'll give it an aircraft for the passenger or the cargo is not set. So it returns none when it will return none when it's passenger or is large. But in Python, when it returns none, it's going to evaluate to false. So take the worst case possible. So we'll get the lowest priority. Another case could be when I keep calling remove when the queue is empty, right now it doesn't do any checks to see if it's empty. So yeah, so I should check. I would change that to check to see if it. Yeah.
So what about? I'm not sure whether you've done any kind of server-side development, but if you were to take this and put it on a server where there's multiple users basically hitting this or adding aircrafts and scheduling aircraft at the same time, a number of different endpoints. Can you think of any other scenarios that you might need to take into consideration as you?
Yeah, so synchronization. So like, let's say like 2 users ends up adding a same type of plane at the same time, and who comes first? Like, so I feel like there needs to be some sort of buffer or something when the queue is being accessed currently. So I don't know how I would implement that at the moment, but basically there'll be a buffer where like if there's a lot of hits on the server, it'll queue up, and whichever at that point it's just like kind of random of where, if it's very close to similar time, then it's just be slowly queuing up randomly.
And what about the data? So a lot of the things that we think about when we talk about server-side development is high availability, failover, replication. You've got there's some aspects of this which basically requires you to store data. Can you think of anything that you might need to keep in mind there in terms of, again, server side?
Yeah, so like if the server fails, or if it's like and like this queue is not available, or like if the connection's like bad, and as the user putting data, like you get a bad data piece handling that. I feel like if the server, somehow we always, because there's this queue, there's this data, there's one point, we have to somehow figure out a way to like guarantee like the aircraft gets into the queue if the server's down. So maybe somehow as a user, if the servers is down, there has to be like the client can store the data somewhere temporarily until they realize the server's back up.
Okay, or possibly we store it on the server side.
Yeah.
So that's one example as well, where you would basically store it on a kind of deep on a server side hosted database, so that the replication happens. If one server goes down and it fails over, it can basically pick up the second instance for zero.
To distribute the data, right?
Okay. So I think, you've done quite well here. I don't know if you want to skip to the analysis, but I think you've definitely gone through the question. You've answered it pretty well.
I do well with asking the question first before I dived into it. Like a lot of times I get really excited and just start coding up, and that's really bad. So I've been practicing just like stepping back, asking questions, making sure I get the big picture of what she wants before I start ahead and start coding. Since I don't have a lot of, what I didn't do well, I feel like, is since I don't have a lot of experience with servers, so it was really hard for me to like come up, like I've only done it back in college, it's been a while, so like just trying to figure out like, okay, what do I do with the case where if the server fails and stuff like that. I don't have a lot of experience, but just like doing just basically doing problem solving, and just like what would I do, how does it like basically how does the internet work, and like what do people do when servers fail, what would they make buffers. So I just started going with that, and hopefully that led to the right answer.
She did a really great job of basically asking questions. I think that was really encouraging, and something that personally I really, really like to see in an interview. There was one part of that solution which I didn't actually give her the information on, which was exactly the question she asked, which was, if I've got 2 of the same entity, what do I do? Because that's basically a big factor in terms of the data structures that you use, whether it's last in, first out, or first in, last out, first in, first out. So that was a great clarification to add, and I think it definitely was a testament to her knowledge of the data structures and thought process in terms of actually breaking down the solution. The sheer fact that she asked so many clarifying questions in the first place, and actually breaking down the 1 to 4, the priority order in which stuff needed to come out of that stack, again, that was a really, really plus. The other really good part of this, I guess, was as she was writing the code, she was obviously talking through it all the time, which is critical in terms of actually delivering the message, because often it doesn't really, well, often it depends on who's interviewing you, but it really, the code is not the most important part, as it is making sure that you're understanding people's thought process. Because this test, while it's a real test that gets used, this is actually open book. right now. So people would very often be given this and sent, left to go away and actually do this and send back the solution. So while you're doing on a whiteboard, talking out loud really kind of proves that, okay, well, had this person had the time to actually take this offline, they really are going to come back with, even more quality code. The other key point as she was talking out loud was that she was identifying the weak points. So, there are always optimizations that you can make. And as she was writing her if statement, she kind of indicated that that was something that she would like to do. And again, giving more time, I think, on a typical whiteboard exercise that was maybe a bit longer, we might have explored that a bit more. But she noticed it, basically highlighted it, and made sure that the people were aware that it was actually happening. I think in terms of the test, she was very well able to articulate the test. I think one kind of, I won't say improvements, but maybe to think about for the next time is as we actually, being able to actually write the unit test itself, and basically kind of what I did here, which was the same way that you articulated the priority order, but actually give the data set in. Because this obviously shows that you're instantiating it, but the is large and is passenger piece doesn't actually show that the data set that you're going to input and then work through in terms of actually being able to say what's coming out of that. And I think, you did walk through I think the testing piece is probably the piece to be much more aware of, because at least in my experience, typically that's where we invest a lot of the time. And not just testing on the kind of unit test piece of it, but taking that up a level and going, right, performance tests, scalability. What are all of the other factors that I need to consider if this is a real kind of production type deployment? And that's, I guess, why we got onto the server side of the questions, and it was good because we were able to basically talk through the types of scenarios. But they're the bigger picture things which I would think about in the context of the follow-on questions that can emerge from this type of a test. But generally speaking, I think she did really, really well to be able to work through this, and yeah, well done. I think she's a hire.